This is a podcast or something like that.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. How's it going? What's up? This is the Verbal Journal podcast, episode 98. It's a public episode, so hello, welcome to the public. I do these podcasts every week. I talk to arguably myself, and it's kind of productive, honestly. It's the Verbal Journal. It's useful. There are subjects we talk about. I drink water. Usually the episodes are recorded in the morning, and this is more of a midday podcast, so be ready for kind of a different energy there if you're a returning customer. And thank you to the people who are customers. And vote with their dollar to give me a little extra money on Patreon and memberships. But it's not all about them, and that's why I like to open these episodes up to the public. Because honestly, the members and patrons are kind of annoying sometimes. And I just want to, I mean, they don't message me or anything, but it's like annoying that they give me money. You know what I mean? Like I ask for it, but then I'm like kind of pissed off about it. So I wanted to punish them by releasing an episode of the podcast for everyone. And we're going to get right into it. Minute 30. Haven't really started yet. That's not great. Episode 98 is going to be special. I have a lot to talk about from current events to news to everything in between, and it's going to be so great. So stay tuned, or come back if you clicked away, I guess. So this is the first public episode post trip I went on. My last episode pre-travel. I almost said pre-trial. I'm not on trial here. All right. Sometimes I am actually a little confused, and I'm doing this podcast and I'm talking to this camera and I'm like, am I on trial? But I always ask my producer Donna and the other staff here, and they say, no, you're not on trial, dude. I was like, okay, sorry. But it's good just to know for sure. So last public episode was, because I've done 2 private episodes since then. Last public episode was pre-travel jitters, because before you travel you get some jitters, and I was processing that on the pod and talking about stuff. So that was great. This is the first one since then. So yeah, anyways, I went on a trip. I went to Europe. I went to 4 different cities in Europe. You might have seen I did 1 or 2 posts to the community page if anyone looks at that. And we're more about that later. A lot more about that later. But so I posted a few times. But so I went on this trip. I looked at art. I went to museums. I stayed in hostels, and I felt great. It was an awesome time. I just went on my own, and I said, you know what, I'm going to live it up. Took a little time off work and just made sure to plan it out, and I ended up doing some museums and stuff I had not planned, because I really planned like maybe 1 thing a day at most, but not even. I planned less than 1 thing a day, and I was like, I know I'll find museums in these big cities, and there was so much, especially Vienna and Prague, and then Zurich had a huge museum, and Frankfurt had one really amazing museum. So it was all just so good, and I'm back interested in like wanting to learn German and stuff. It was just a very confidence-inducing experience. So really great. I'm bringing that all back to the pod. I do it all for you. Life is nothing but a reason to podcast. That's what I tend to say. A little bit of fun facts. I know I'm not supposed to talk about last episode. I know I'm not supposed to spend the whole introduction talking about the podcast. I've been told that several times. But just one quick thing about the last episode, because no one, and it doesn't get a lot of views. These private episodes, they're very exclusive for only the elite. This last one is the longest podcast episode I've ever done. That is way longer than I will do today, and I would never want anyone to expect that. And I'm sorry if it was a little too long, but I went it was actually an hour and 47 on the dot when you look at it from, you can't look at it on the channel page because it's unlisted. But when you look at it, I think in the YouTube studio, and that you see that all the time if you publish YouTube videos, you see it's always 1 second longer in certain screens and then 1 second shorter in other screens. It's not important, but for some reason you do get that. It rounds up for everything but what it says actually here on the video, and then it rounds down is what I believe is the case. But this was the longest episode, 97 episodes, longest one. We finally surpassed the pod travaganza, which, that was a long time ago. Most of y'all have no idea what the heck that's about, but you're fascinated nonetheless. You're saying, tell me more about the historiography of the pod. So yeah, May 21st. So that was over a year and a half ago, and that episode was an hour and 41 short by our new standards. Who got this data, by the way? Like this is some really good data. We have all these numbers and stuff. Who did this? We haven't had this in a while. So yeah, the Pod Travaganza episode 17, May 21st, 2023, about a year and a half ago. This recent episode was the 30th episode that was over an hour long. So that's 30 episodes out of 97 have been over an hour long. 30 episodes out of 97, about a third. And it was the 7th episode in a row over an hour long. So I've been kind of on that grind, you might say. So this is all that I'm going to say about the previous episode, right? So it's okay. You know what I mean? So everyone can just cool their jets, because that's all I'm going to say about the previous episode, and we are going to move on. Gosh, I have a toxic workplace here at the podcast. My studio is like a mess. But I do it for the love of the game. And that's all. Okay, so that's all. One quick thing, just one thing. Also, the editor, I need to say the editor kind of messed up, and I just wanted to call that out, because I do like to, accountability is a big deal to me, especially when I can hold someone else accountable. That's my favorite version of accountability. So I just wanted to say to the editor, and you know who you are, she was like, can you stop naming me on the podcast? It's always in a kind of slightly negative light. And I was like, I didn't really think about that, but I've been kind of harsh on the editor. But we have a whole thing with the marketing department I'm going to have to get to, but we're going to save that. That's much later. Okay. So anyways, the point is the font. You don't mess around with the font. We do Tahoma. You know what I mean? Arial, if we're feeling absolutely insane and wild. But Verbal Journal, episode 97, and then you want it to be in Tahoma. So let's definitely write that down for next time. We don't experiment with the fonts. We're not that type of a thing. Is it suggesting I watch H-Bomb? Yeah, because this video and H-Bomber Guy's videos are, the podcast and H-Bomber Guy's videos, very similar in quality, and I put similar amount of work into these podcasts, and so does the whole team here. So yeah, unfathomably not okay to change the font, and we're not going to do that again. It was just one more quick thing about the podcast. It was the first time that the thumbnail has been edited more aggressively with the superimposed episode number, even the verbal journal written on the thumbnail. Usually the thumbnails are just, this, like an image from the from Vienna, some from Zurich, some photos. But yeah, these are just screenshots. But I said, hey, could we maybe do some editing on the thumbnail? And so yeah, we have the hole in the laser eyes. So I think that's pretty good. I wanted to do that, and then they were like, yeah, you can do it. And I was like, okay, I have to do everything here. I'm the talent, and I do everything here at the podcast. But I did do it. Because then once I was like, hey, could we maybe do a thumbnail that's edited? And they're like, yeah, why don't you do it? And I was like, nah, I'm kind of busy and like whatever. And they were like, no, you actually have to do it now. And I was like, what? It was just my idea. You know what I mean? And they were like, nope, you now have to do that. I'm like, on whose authority? And they're like, on your authority. You just said you have to do it. And I didn't say, it got... Anyways, let's get on to the word of the week. The word of the week is Nothingburger, and I'm supposed to say WOTW. Okay. So this segment is the WOTW. I guess we're rebranding the segment. Is that what we're doing? Oh, and I'm supposed to... Okay, I mean, it just takes longer to say. Welcome to the WOTW. WOTW, 8 syllables, word of the week, 4 syllables. Are you really going to shorten the... All right. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, how am I supposed to put up with this type of thing? But I guess it's a nothing burger, if you really think about it. So nothing burger is the word of the word of the word of the week. Can I say it when I'm talking? And it is a person or thing of no importance, value, or substance, now especially something which, contrary to expectations, turns out to be insignificant or unremarkable. You could say, hey, I was really expecting I was going for dinner, but I was expecting a delightful meal, but it was kind of a nothing burger. Or actually, you wouldn't want to say that because that would be kind of confusing because it's referring to a food item. So the word of the week is nothing burger. I think, people are starting to use it again. I've definitely heard it used a lot more. Let's go into the midsection. So this is a section of the podcast, containing some segments that people always enjoy. The first one is Grinds My Gears segment. I don't have anything on it. Nothing has bothered me in the last week. So I've just been cool as a cucumber and totally unbothered and moisturized and in my lane. So my gears are churning and turning. But now let's really get into the midsection though, with the main segment of the midsection. Not to be confused with the main section itself, but this is the main segment of the midsection. And it is fun. This just in from Reuters exclusive. Trump's meme coin made nearly $100 million in trading fees as small traders lost money. So I thought that was, something that would be good to cover really quick. Just pop over to the, news and maybe just read, because it's good to stay in the know with what's happening. Entities behind President Donald Trump's crypto coin have accumulated close to $100 million in trading fees in less than 2 weeks since he's become the president, according to estimates from 3 blockchain analysis firms. A large windfall. $100 million, it does sound like a large windfall, from a venture that has seen tens of thousands of small traders lose money. So that is interesting. What you have here is a situation where the meme coin goes up in quote unquote value, but not for everyone. You know what I mean? It's a little interesting. It's generated between 86 and 100 million people estimate, but in trading fees. This is just the trading fees. And those are split, obviously, between some principal investors and so on. One of the entities behind the crypto coin is a company owned by Trump called CIC Digital, which I assume is Commander-in-Chief Digital, but I don't know. Which is just, really, it's childish. It's shocking that this is the world we live in. Where you have this type of profit being made on look, financial instruments that you want to speculate on, go ahead. That's gambling. People are allowed to do that. But yeah, I don't know, the ethics of the president owning a company profiting off a financial instrument that people are investing in that has actually no other value. These estimates far exceed what had been previously reported. The White House responded to a list of questions from Reuters with a 2-page fact sheet describing Trump's executive order earlier this month on digital financial technology. It did not address questions about the trading fees. So, that's helpful to understand. So they didn't answer things like, how much is the president profiting from these fees, which I'm sure Reuters is just trying to get at that question generally. Seems like an ethical conundrum. Opaque ownership. There's a fight coin or something owned by Trump's CIC Digital and Celebration Cards. The official Trump website says it up to 1 billion Trump. Yeah, so so basically Fight and CIC Digital own a bunch of the coins and make it so they profit first and most. And tens of thousands of people lost money. That's a lot, right? Is that normal? Is that like every coin? I mean, is there a crypto coin where not almost everyone loses money? I mean, isn't that the whole deal with the speculative financial instruments? So yeah, I mean, it's this whole complex world of like, it's not any more complex than like pre-existing like financial speculation, I think, but it's just, it might be. Maybe it's even more complex and therefore more opaque, I think. Yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to mention about this. Yeah, the company they worked with said he didn't know anything about the team behind the Trump token. That's interesting. Okay, so that's good, right? I mean, it's just something to consider if you're looking for something to invest in. They've already made 100 million. Entities behind these coins have already made 100 million just in trading fees. And when you get money based on trading fees, that's better than making money by buying and selling the stock, because that is just from the fees. And people just pay these extra fees to buy and sell their fictional currency. And it's fictional. I mean, obviously the US dollar is still to some extent fictional, but there's a difference between a currency and a speculative financial instrument. And that difference might be a difference in a matter of degree rather than a binary difference. But I do think there's a difference based on how the currency is used and to what extent it is gambled on. So very cool. That's the main section of the main. I'm so sorry. It's the main segment of the midsection. Moving on to the chess update. So we like to talk chess sometimes. I haven't watched this yet. This is former world champion Magnus Carlsen talking with this company he co-founded about why he offered Jan Nepomniachtchi to share the World Blitz Chess Champion title recently, a month or so ago, when they both tied after was it the 4 regular games in their championship, and then maybe they tied after 2 or 4 extra games already. I think it was 2 extra, and then they before the 7th game they agreed to just split the World Blitz Chess Championship title. So Blitz Chess is 5-minute games. Each person gets 5 minutes, so 10-minute games, 15-minute with increment or so. But it's prestigious. I mean, to be the World Blitz champion, and these guys take it very, very seriously. Everyone takes it very seriously. I mean, all the chess professionals. So it was strange that they decided to share the title, and people were quite scandalized. I was like, I love it because I just like seeing 2 bros getting along. But I didn't really get it, and I was shocked. I didn't like it when I was watching because I was watching live, and I wanted to watch them duke it out, and it is kind of ridiculous to show the title. But I just like people doing weird stuff, like Magnus stepping down from being world chess champion without, just saying he didn't want to defend the title anymore, which, fair enough. And now he's a married man. We covered that on a previous on a drama segment. Okay, well, let's listen to him explain his reasoning here. I'm not sure if I have to pause it to not get like copyright strike. I'm not sure how that works, but I might see.
The fact that you initiated that to share the title with Nepo, suggesting that, agreeing on that, is that a sign that you don't have the same drive that we've been used to seeing you with, just loving to win?
I mean, it's not a disrespectful question at all. I mean, I'm very open about the fact that I don't have quite the same drive as I did earlier.
It was still weird. Like, I get that, but it was still weird. And it was like New Year's Eve, so it was kind of like, and it was like 8 p.m. or something. It was like, okay, did they just want to, like, does he have plans? Like, it was actually like just kind of strange because they could have played for like 10 more minutes and duked it out. I think they both agreed they didn't want it to be decided by one game where, like, it's hard to explain if you don't follow chess, but like, they didn't get to choose their colors really. So, and white has a slight advantage to black because they go first. So it was sort of like, maybe felt like a stupid way to decide the title, but that's kind of dumb because it really, and it's like a one shot winner take all, but that's a dumb argument really because it is just like a blitz title. You might as well define it that way. But anyways, and there are, classical chess titles where the games are hours long, and those titles are also sometimes determined by, wasn't it determined by shorter, it was determined by rapid games several times in a row, right? Ding's title was won in rapid when he beat Nepo, right? Was Magnus Nepo? Or, anyways, some people are so bored by this. Let's keep watching.
It did creep in at some point that I felt like after the comeback he made that he would have been very hard done by if he didn't get his first world championship title, because of this.
Like he felt empathy for Nepo.
Apart from that, I was of course earlier thinking that I was going to win the match. Like I won the first two games and I didn't, I was feeling quite good. Then he made a very good comeback, and at that point, of course, my confidence was shaken a bit. And
okay, but still, that seems like still strange to just like offer a share the title.
We played three like really high quality draws in the tiebreakers.
But I like it just because it's funny and no one would do that, and I like it for that reason that they shared the title and it made a lot of people annoyed in a funny way.
Well, so I wasn't feeling confident that I was going to win. So it was a combination of that, like feeling that it would be a nice solution, partly also wanting to get out of there with the World Championship title. And I honestly thought that it would be a nice moment, and I still think that it...
Yeah, okay, so that's probably the main reason. God, he takes like a while to kind of... I feel like this is a lot of different reasons. It's like, what's the real reason, dude? But yeah, I think it's just that he thought it would be funny and wanted to piss people off, and it was funny.
That it was. Also... I think people got to realize that at that point, like, you're not always thinking very clearly. Like, there's always like 2-minute break.
By the way, if you don't follow chess, he's the best chess player alive. He's just not the world champion right now of classical, but he's the best chess player alive by far.
In between rounds, like you don't really have time to go rest at all. And I wasn't like thinking through everything. But yeah, of course,
Is that him saying he kind of regrets it?
you know, it turned out like that people didn't really take it the way that I thought they might. Like what happened with the high jump Olympics and everything. Where's
I think there was like a high jump Olympics where people shared the title, and he's like, people thought it was a nice moment in the Olympics. I don't know. I'm sure someone could make some argument about why it's different in chess. And I mean, it just doesn't matter. Like the take is like it doesn't matter. It makes no difference.
which is of course fine, but
Do you regret?
no, I'm I'm happy with the way things concluded. The only thing is I
Wait, he's not wearing a wedding ring unless it's on the right hand in Norway.
probably didn't think through everything completely, but
Okay. Good. Okay. Take. You could probably
The fact that you
edit it before he says but or something. So that was interesting. By the way, we talked about how we talked about this on a month or two ago about how this company, which Magnus co-founded, didn't post about the conclusion of this tournament. Like when he shared the title with Nepo and everyone got mad, Take, which had been covering every round, live tweeting the tournament that was going on, the World Blitz Chess Championship, just stopped tweeting and didn't cover the ending where he shared the title with Nepo. I don't think they even covered anything from his matchup with Nepo, which I don't really understand, but they never said how the tournament ended. And so I looked back into it, I followed back up, and they never did post about the conclusion of the tournament, even after covering the whole thing. But anyways, that was on as I said, New Year's Eve, so December 31st. And then they posted on Twitter again, but it was 9 days later. They didn't post for 9 days, over a week. And they posted about the Vaikanze major tournament coming up 9 days later, 9-9. Which they and then they covered the Vaikanze tournament daily. They covered it again. They live tweeted, covered a tournament, and that brings us up to about now. So yeah, just interesting that it's interesting, like why would the company live tweeting a chess tournament, and the company's owned by a guy who ends up in a controversial ending of the chess tournament, they stop covering it. And then they just move on, and now they interview him about it. But I don't know. It's just I'm not even saying it's suspicious or anything. It's just interesting. Let's close some windows, shall we? Just kind of make things run a little bit better. And move on to, we're still in the midsection. This is the grieving segment. We're moving on to the grieving segment. This is a follow-up. We've covered the potential Nissan-Honda merger because there's nothing I love more than friendship and true love. And I thought Nissan and Honda were really getting along, and I was really excited about it. I was sort of cheering them on. I thought I was going to speak at their wedding. And it turns out that it just didn't work out. So Nissan, is calling off the merger with Honda. And I guess they're going back to being rivals. But that being said, apparently one day later, there's hope, and that's part of grief is hope. Nissan open to new partners, and including Foxconn. All these companies are great, and what I love is they're open to new partners, and they're looking, and they're out there, and they're swiping, and they're on the prowl, and I just think that's really great. Meeting with his counterpart, and that's really good. They ended discussions after Honda proposed making Nissan a subsidiary, according to a person. So they were like, you're not going to make me a subsidiary. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, I am no one's subsidiary. Maybe they would be willing to be Foxconn's subsidiary, though. I don't know, or maybe they just don't want to be anyone's subsidiary. I think that is whatever their orientation is. I am totally fine with it. Yeah, it hit a wall after the subsidiary incident. Totally get that. Well, anyways, I am really looking forward to more grieving segments because this is the first one we've done, and it's helping me process the separation for sure. I can feel that. Similarly, we have the good news segment. Good news segment, little bit more sincere. Cigna links executive pay to customer satisfaction as insurers face scrutiny. So I thought this was a really good idea, and so I wanted to just share it. It's a company linking their executive pay to the customer satisfaction. Now, would it be better to link executive pay to employee pay? Yeah, it would actually. I think it would be good to, they say, well, we need to offer millions of dollars to CEOs and tens of millions of dollars because that's how we get the best talent. But I don't know. There's got to be a point of diminishing returns, in my opinion. That just it logically has to be. So I am. Did they choose? They chose a dirty sign. Wow, that's kind of a choice. It's kind of a nice photograph, but good job, Andrew Kelly. I just wanted to say, yeah, good for this. This is good. So the December 4. I am not allowed to say that word, of this guy, the head of United Health's insurance unit, sparked an outpouring of anger from Americans on social media, calling fresh attention to deepening customer. So, wow. So as a partial result of that, Cigna says we recognize that the way we will get trust back is not through our words. It's not even through our actions. It's through the results that people will see. Okay, that's a good way to put it. Thank you, Cigna. Good idea. They're going to... and then United Health said last month it would work to reduce the frequency of its prior authorization approvals, which is when your medical health provider or your mental health, usually not mental health in the U.S., doesn't have to do prior approval, but for all kinds of tests and all kinds of, I'm sure all kinds of treatments, you have to get prior authorization. So it means getting your healthcare provider to contact your insurance company. And sometimes it takes a while. And obviously they need to approve it and authorize it. It's ridiculous. Your medical health providers should be the ones making the decisions. We do not need another layer of bureaucracy. We should just have... There can be some variations in healthcare plans, but there should just be a baseline standard one that's really good. If we'd have to pay our tax dollars into some sort of fund. I don't know. I'll think about that another time. And more good news is U.S. judge temporarily blocks Musk's, that's Elon Musk, unelected oligarch who is having an enormous impact on the functioning of the federal executive branch, or whatever you want to call that whole thing. U.S. judge blocks this guy's organization named after his meme coin. You gotta have your meme coin these days. Who are you if you don't have a meme coin? Sorry, I'm trying to get through the headline here. U.S. judge temporarily blocks Musk's Doge from accessing payment systems. So U.S. judge says nope. Federal judge said early Saturday, judge is working on the weekend to say, please don't let your team process or access these systems that process trillions. That's right, trillions of dollars in payments. I'm working on my news voice. How am I doing here? Can we get some light in here, please? The lawsuit said blah, blah, blah. What did the judge say? Thanks, Reuters, for reminding that. I wonder if they would say that if it was a Republican appointee. Probably. Reuters is fairly nice about that and good about that. Judge said the state's claims are particularly strong and warrant him acting on their request for emergency relief on a Saturday. pending a further hearing before another judge on Valentine's Day. These judges can't catch a break. Let the judge find love. Is that the point of this? Why am I reading? Not for that point? Okay. His order bars access from being granted to Treasury Department payment and data systems by political appointees, that's unelected oligarchs in this case, special government employees, which is Elon Musk's designation. He's very special. He's a special boy. And government employees detailed from an agency outside the Treasury Department. Okay. Treasury is as Treasury does, which is a reference to last episode, but that's a deep cut. But all good news has a bad side. There's another U.S. judge. These judges are not all the same. You cannot paint judges with a broad brush, because this judge declined to block the same organization from accessing Labor Department systems. So they can get in the Labor Department systems in whatever amount of detail they want, but not the Treasury's systems, and I'm sure there's a good reason for that. But this is a ruling in a lawsuit brought by the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, a huge union, or organization of unions, or it's a union, I don't know. But they're bringing this case because they're worried that what Musk is doing is criminal, I guess. Is that or civilly illegal? Is it civilly illegal? What are they worried about here? People just want him to maybe not immediately access all the government systems. So he's the richest person in the world, owner of a few companies, saying he's looking for waste and fraud. But some people say maybe he's hitting a sledgehammer to structures that actually serve some functions. Yeah. Another group of federal employee unions and retirees has sued the Treasury Department, that's the one we just mentioned, to block what it says is the unlawful transmission of sensitive payment records. Treasury temporarily agreed on Wednesday not to give further access while the case plays out, and then it was back and forth until Saturday in the thing we saw, and I'm sure there might even be new news this morning on Sunday. In the Labor Department lawsuit, the AFL-CIO asked the court to block what it said was Musk's imminent plan to access department systems. A union, which represents roughly 800,000 government workers, said that this would potentially give Musk access to non-public information from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration probes into SpaceX. Now, you're telling me that this guy would look up information beneficial to him and his companies. You're saying he would use the government to benefit himself? Or investigations into his competitors? Since when has he ever tried to use the government to his benefit? I mean, obviously, his companies work massively with the government and get enormous amounts of money from the government in all sorts of ways, but would he really be so unethical? I guess we all have to just wonder, right? And we'll never know. I mean, we'll probably know in like a day. South African-born businessman to exert unprecedented control over America's 2.2 million member federal workforce and begin a dramatic reshaping of the government. He's already moved to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development. I wonder if any foreign governments have ever influenced his behavior in any way. Because you do sometimes find that happens with people. I'm not saying it's happened with him, but I wonder, you know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, yeah, U.S. government has a lot of issues. Okay, yeah, it should be kind of changed significantly, but like, is he the guy to do it? Is he the guy to do it? And does he have my best interests at heart? Well, if I invest in his meme coin, then we have the same interests, and I'm basically him. So not, mix of good news, but we will move on to, it's a segment that's also pretty uplifting. People get a real kick out of this. It's a couple weeks in, relatively new segment. It's the Chief Executive Officer segment where we cover news related to Chief Executive Officers. Sorry. It's kind of a mouthful, but I don't say CEO because I think it's kind of disrespectful to shorten it like that. So Chief Executive Officers, I was giving Elon a tough time here, but that's because he is a special government employee. I would never be critical of a Chief Executive Officer, and I respect them, and I love them, and they love me. And I just wanted to do this segment. I've been starting this ever since the thing happened to that one healthcare CEO because I'm trying to bring some visibility to all the good things going on with CEOs. It's not all just doom and gloom. When you think about CEOs, I don't want you to imagine that video of one of them getting, I can't say any of these words. There's some words that you just have to not say online because otherwise the algorithm goes, hey, what was that? Anyways, I've been bringing some positive light to the Chief Executive Officer community, and let's just see what we have for today. I think we got a great segment here. First up, Senate confirms fracking executive Chris Wright as Trump's energy secretary. So that is, it's a short article. Sometimes the articles are short. He's a chief executive officer of Liberty Energy, which sounds great. And he's going to step down from the company once he's confirmed. That's very nice of him. I appreciate that personally. He wrote in a report last year he believes human-caused climate change is real. Whoa. Good for him. But that its hazards are distant and uncertain. Oof. So close. Unfortunately, that is not true. That's the one thing I have to say. Some chief executive officers are sometimes not 100% correct about climate change, for instance. And there might be other examples of things. But that is the one thing I'll say, and it's not even a criticism because that's not their job. They're not a scientist. They're just someone who is casting some doubt and just asking some questions about whether scientists really know much. You know what I mean? And it does, just distant and uncertain. Yeah. Why are storms scientifically demonstrated to be getting worse and more severe, as well as droughts, I believe? And certainly the sea levels are rising. But have you ever heard of such a thing as a coincidence? Or also, why don't you just have faith? You know what I mean? If you could just believe in someone like this guy, just believe that he will solve all your problems and all the world's problems like a messiah. Just if you believe that, then you don't have to worry about things as much because technocrats will have your best interests at heart. And that's something you need to know. So just don't even worry about anything. Top-down governmental policies to curb climate change are destined to fail. So he's saying that there should be a grassroots movement sabotaging energy companies. That is wild that he's saying that, or that it seems like he's saying that. But I'm just interpreting. I'm not making any statements myself. It seems like he's saying there needs to be a bottom-up grassroots movement to sabotage the functioning of energy companies and the industry as a whole. And that is a wild thing for him to say. But hey, I like that energy. No, I don't like that energy. I noticed that energy. He's going to be in charge of an agency that has about a $50 billion budget, with about half of that going to maintain the country's nuclear weapons stockpile, which, frankly, I think should be destroyed. If I was president, I would say, hey, we're just going to go ahead and destroy our nuclear weapons and hope that the other countries do the same. Or you could just get them to sign a treaty. I've brought this up before. I get you could just get them to sign a treaty. You know what I mean? You don't have to do it in such a dramatic way. Okay, so some good chief executive officer representation in the cabinet, Secretary of Energy, and former chief executive officer of an energy company. So he knows all about energy. You know what I mean? And how to chiefly execute it. Next up on the Chief Executive Officer segment, Palantir CEO Alex Karp says that the same agency we were talking about is a revolution. And, quote, some people are going to get their heads cut off. Yeah, not a good way to wear your facial hair. That's when you're surrounded by yes men. You know, it's just like, no shame, but like, it just doesn't look great. You know what I mean? So, this company, Palantir, I believe, was founded by oligarch Peter Thiel, another name you might know from the news. He has given tens of millions of dollars to J.D. Vance in his career, I believe, which is a good investment. Certainly paid off. And many other things. Palantir is a software company, which is one way to put it. They're involved in all kind of business, and they're, some people say that companies should just take over the world, and if we do decide to go that route, I think Palantir would happily step up, and I appreciate that. It's an uplifting segment. It's also kind of a follow-up or a reference a little bit, because last week we were talking about someone who's saying someone's head got cut off. It was a very different context. Well, I guess it was actually kind of a similar way of using it, honestly, but that was a football coach talking about another football coach. You got to subscribe to the Patreon if you want to watch that episode. I'm not going to explain. There's a whole context to it, but... So this chief executive and co-founder of this company says that he likes this sledgehammer routine that is destroying aspects of the functionality of the executive branch and the federal government as a whole. You know, it's interesting when very powerful people tend to like disruption. I wonder why that is. Maybe they are poised to fill gaps and power vacuums. Palantir has contracts with government organizations both in the U.S. and abroad, many of which use its software for military operations and intelligence. Intelligence is another word for surveillance. In the U.S., Palantir has contracts with the U.S. Army and the Department of Defense, including some worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay. So you're telling me that the CEO and co-founder of a company that makes hundreds of millions of dollars in working with the U.S. government likes to have what Elon Musk is doing in the federal government done. Okay, that's interesting. So he somehow likes that. And their shares have gone up 24% in the previous year. Or no, after hours on one day. So their stock is doing great lately. They even won a case against the U.S. Army 10 years ago and basically said, hey, you're not giving us enough money, would be my summary based on what I'm seeing here. And, oh, good. Okay, we talked about this on the last. So this chief executive officer also defended that guy, the oligarch in the Crystal Palace, against criticism last week that he made a Nazi salute, which we talked all about last week on last week's episode. I don't know whether he addressed the salute very, very specifically, and I certainly don't know whether he addressed Musk speaking to a far-right political party, the far-right political party in Germany, and telling them to move on from their guilt about the Holocaust, if I remember correctly, and telling them all kinds of stuff. Or maybe he told that to a different group of people. But I do know he gave a nice, inspiring speech to the far-right party in Germany. He also tweets about birth rates. He also tweeted that someone had said the absolute truth when they said that Jews want to create anti-white hatred. So just kind of some people would say a pattern, but other people are like, what's a pattern? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even see patterns. You know what I mean? And so there's all kinds of people out there, and this chief executive is standing up and saying, you know what? I don't see that. I just see him making a hand motion twice in an extremely emphatic way with his fingers held together. He's never made a Nazi salute around me. You know what I mean? So that's a good point. So companies like this with government contracts, is it that they want someone on the inside, or is it just that they want a government that can't do as much because they will pick up the slack profitably? I don't know. But next up on the Chief Executive Officer segment, we were just talking about football. Roger Goodell lauds Saints transparency after story reveals team's PR aid to archdiocese. So that's sort of not saying kind of burying the lead, because that's in reference to the Saints. It just came out, helped the Catholic Church address a sex abuse scandal. Bunch of emails came out. New York Times reported just recently that the archdiocese in New Orleans got some assistance from through the Saints head of communication from the owner of the Saints. So that's, the owner of the Saints was helping out the Catholic archdiocese when they had claims of abuse come up. So you can read more about that in the New York Times. It's kind of a fascinating case. Good job, Roger Goodell, standing up for your owner. I mean, a owner. Sorry. I'm allergic to how great chief executive officers are. You can be allergic to good things, too. You know what I mean? Yeah, NFL's not going to investigate the owner in this way, and why should they? He can do whatever he wants, you know what I mean? It's his commissioner is like the chief executive officer of the of sports. Oh, by the way, Super Bowl's tonight. So by the time you're watching this, the Super Bowl has probably already happened. So, hey, how about the game? You know what I mean? It's pretty good. Oh, I really didn't think that it was going to end that way. That was wild. Okay, this last Chief Executive Officer from the Chief Executive Officer segment is a follow-up to last week. We talked about Mark Zuckerberg on the Zuckerberg, thank you, on Meta, of Meta. Mark Zuckerberg, he's the good old chief executive officer of Meta. I'm sorry, he's the owner. Who's the Meta CEO? Is he the CEO? Yeah, he's the CEO. Okay. So, I mean, they could say owner and CEO. Reuters, come on. Get your shit together. So, we were talking last week about how Zuckerberg's, did this whole Q&A with his employees. He was super transparent, and he was like, yeah, we are going to milk this situation for as much as it's worth. I don't think that's a direct quote. But next up, we see that he has gone ahead and said, we are going to get rid of some of y'all. And employees in Germany, France, Italy, and the Netherlands will be exempt from the cuts due to local regulations. Whoa, what are those? Could we have some of those, please? While those in more than a dozen other countries across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and also the U.S., I don't know why they didn't say it again when it's true, but okay, will get their notifications this week. So get ready for, maybe is it a Facebook notification? Like when you work for Meta, you just get a Facebook notification. It's like, you're fired, poke. You know what I mean? I don't use Facebook. I don't know if you can still poke people. That's probably, some of you are probably too young. You don't even remember poking anyone on Facebook. So company confirmed last month that it was planning to trim, like a hedge, about 5% of its lowest performers. Ooh. And backfill at least some of the positions. So look, sometimes companies have to fire people. I get that. It's more a problem of like, we live in a world where people are sort of reliant on their jobs to survive. And unfortunately, even though people can get jobs from various places, it's not always so easy to get their needs met from those jobs. And jobs will essentially pay, seemingly, the least amount that they can, which can be a real problem. Anyways, that's the chief executive, but that's not the chief executive officer's fault, and I don't blame them at all. I totally get it, and I respect that. You know what I mean? I love what they're doing. I think they're doing a great job. Next up, we have the Everybody Makes Mistakes segment. So everyone makes mistakes, and we talk about that because we want to try to uplift people and help people understand everyone does make mistakes. So in this case, it's the U.S. government making a mistake. So that one president removed Cuba from the U.S. List of state sponsors of terrorism. The next president said, actually, we changed our minds and you are terrorists. You're sponsoring terrorism. And Cuba was like, how? And we're like, don't worry about it. So just hours after his inauguration, this guy signed a rescission, which I don't even know that word. Can we get a WOTW on that? Lifted the communist-ruled island's designation as a terrorism-sponsoring nation. Yeah, it would be nice to not sanction Cuba. I don't know if they deserve... I don't know if they deserve the, some people say they don't deserve the sanctions that they've had. It's always steadfastly denied any support for terrorism, Cuba has, and has begun releasing a small number of prisoners as part of a broader plan negotiated with the Vatican. Great, we should do that too. We don't need the Vatican, I just mean to release the prisoners. I think we have too many people locked in prison, in jail. Some people haven't even been convicted of anything. A lot of people, including people like Guantanamo, as we've talked about, but which is in Cuba. Sort of, actually, now that you mention it, sort of weird for a U.S. prison to be in Cuba. Has anyone ever thought about that being weird? Biden last week sought to prevent individuals a few weeks ago from individuals from filing lawsuits against both Cuban entities and foreign companies over property seized following Castro's revolution. Wow. I mean, it's not Castro's revolution, it's the people's revolution, but wow. So Biden wants to be like, hey, you can't sue over that. You know what I mean? Get over it. I mean, my understanding in very brief terms is like the Cuban people were not benefiting from the industry of their country, rather foreign multinational corporations were. And I think that might even have happened in other countries. I'll have to check. But also, you know, I'm not defending the government. Like, you know, at the end of the day, governments need to constantly change and listen to their people, and they need to be as democratic as possible so they listen to people. And the best way to do that is when people are protesting, get them in the room, say, what do you want? Let's figure it out. You know, we're working together. Right. Next up on the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, BBC apologizes for culture of silence over Russell Brand. So BBC has said that they're sorry and they've made a mistake. They made a mistake by not speaking up about concerns about Brand's behavior because he was seen as too influential. He was a presenter for BBC Radio 2 between 2006 and 2008, and they had 8 complaints, 2 of which while he worked for the corporation about his behavior, I assume. Wow, disgusting things. And yeah, he was not well and showing it. And allegations, came forward 2 years ago. It's very, very serious allegations with extremely solid evidence, as far as I remember. Text messages from him apologizing after an incident, and I'm sure there's all kinds of other evidence supporting it. So BBC is sorry, and they had these horrendous complaints about him, and the staff felt they couldn't raise concerns because they believed they would not be taken seriously. BBC needs to make things right. Wow, this happens a lot, apparently. Places not really holding people accountable. All right, BBC made a complaint about a disgusting situation, and then I guess nothing happened, and they made light of it. Interesting. Yeah, they made light of it. So not great. But they made a mistake. Next up on the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, we were talking about this department. Well, okay, one of the staffers in the department is a Berkeley-educated computer scientist who has boosted white supremacists and misogynists online. Yes, sure. Who hasn't? You're telling me you watching this don't regularly or occasionally boost white supremacists and misogynists online? Then you can cast the first stone if you have never, for instance, reposted content by these guys. We've all done it. Following Reuters' request for comment on Thursday evening, public access to his X account was blocked, and I believe that's Twitter. In response to a post about Eric Adams, New York mayor, possibly shutting down a migrant shelter in November, this guy, who now has a ton of power apparently, said, "Just leave them be for a few more months. Will be much more convenient to deport them all if they are all in one spot." Interesting. That is, one might say that that's horrendous, right? I don't know, because maybe we shouldn't actually do that. I mean, deporting someone is forcibly transferring them, and I just don't think it's justified. I don't think you should deport someone unless they've committed a violent crime and been convicted of it in court. Maybe there's some other situations where it's worth deporting someone, but I don't know. And obviously I'm talking about assuming you have a place that's safe for them to go, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's you just gotta live and let live. So this guy's apparently not live and let live sort of guy. Sharing all kinds of posts. It's just I think we've all done this. And a White House official told Reuters on Wednesday that Musk and his engineers have appropriate security clearances and are operating in full compliance with federal law. We will find out eventually. We sure will. But we have now a compatible segment to the previous one. So, we go through everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And then, but the truth is, people can change. So people can change. Companies can change. Things change. And Google lifts a ban on using its AI for weapons and surveillance. So Google has announced that it is overhauling the principles governing how it uses artificial intelligence and other advanced technology. The company Google has removed language promising not to pursue technologies that cause or are likely to cause overall harm. So Also, weapons or other technologies whose principal purpose or implementation is to cause or directly facilitate injury to people, technologies that gather or use information for surveillance violating internationally accepted norms, and technologies whose purpose contravenes widely accepted principles of international law and human rights. The changes were disclosed in a note appended to the top of a 2018 blog post unveiling the guidelines, saying we've made updates to our AI principles. Visit ai.google for the latest. Yep, they made some little updates, and then you can see the latest, and people compared, and obviously, so they are not, the thing is, if your principles are not making you the kind of profit you need or want or seek, sometimes you just have to get in there, give the principles a little bit of a, you know what I mean? And that's, so people can change, principles can change, and I just think that's kind of uplifting and positive. Next up, speaking of uplifting and positive, we have the Fatherhood segment. So a lot about this guy, this one oligarch. He's really been in the news a lot lately, kind of getting his hands all nitty gritty, messy, dirty. But his dad got him a nice phone call with a South African leader. And you might be saying, wow, that's so nice, because he's from South Africa. So his dad said, hey, wouldn't you want to talk to the leader of South Africa? And his little boy Elon said, yes, please, Daddy. That's not exactly what happened, so I will clarify. Because what actually happened is this billionaire, which is a large amount of money that he has amassed and appropriated, he publicly accused the post-apartheid government of anti-white racism. So I'm not saying that Elon Musk wishes it was not a post-apartheid government, but he does apparently think that the post-apartheid government is anti-white, and I wonder if we can blame the Jews. Just personally, as a Jewish person, I wonder if that's maybe the direction things go, because he did say that thing about anti-white racism, and I did talk about it a lot on the last episode, but I feel that I need to bring it up again, because I don't want people to say, where's the source? Elon Musk agrees with tweet accusing Jewish people of hatred against whites. It's very explicit. He didn't just like the tweet. He responded in full. So anti-white racism, big issue he's concerned about. So I'm sure he's helping the government be less racist against white people. And as a white person, I'm like, get it. You know what I mean? I've been dealing with racism for way too long. You know what I mean? As a white person, you walk around, you're like, I can't even pretend, actually. Honestly, I can't even think of what that would be like. Anyways, so he talks to the South African leader, and because the leader wanted to talk to him, not just because he's a big important guy, but because the administration he's part of is like, they say, well, we're not going to give you all this money that we normally would. And I don't know what the funding, how that works exactly, what type of funding it is. But point is, if you're going to be racist against white people, we're going to catch you. You know what I mean? What did they do that was racist to white people? You might be wondering. Well, they signed a bill into law with the aim of addressing racial disparities in land ownership that have persisted in South Africa since apartheid ended 30 years ago. So Musk doesn't like that, huh? And also white farmers, huh? But does that mean they want disparities in land ownership? What? The law allows the state to expropriate land in the public interest in some cases without compensating the owner. South Africa had previously set a target for the government to transfer 30% of farmland to black hands that had been repeatedly pushed back. Has repeatedly been pushed back. As of 2018, only 8% has been transferred. Wow. I mean, I don't like why. Okay. I mean, I wonder why they don't compensate the owners at all. Because you would think, like, what, could they compensate the owners a little and still forcibly take the land? Like, I mean, if you're going to forcibly take the land, I mean, can you not compensate them a little? I'm trying to find a compromise, okay? Black people make up 80% of South Africa's total population, and only 8% are white. So white people are the small minority, very small minority, like much smaller than black people in the U.S., for instance, if we were to compare. Half as small, if not less, I would say. And yet, I wonder if they own a majority of the land. I don't see those stats here. Oh, yeah, here we go. 75% of landowners are white when they're only 8% of the population. Huh. Or, I'm sorry, farmland owners. Yeah. Wow. That does seem like a disparity. So good dad to make that call happen. The call happened. I don't think it went great. We'll see more about that another time. I just care more about the fatherhood side of it. I really think that's great that he set up a call for his son. I think that's great. You know what I mean? That's a nice dad thing to do. Oh, I did have a follow-up. That makes me look stupid. Why didn't you tell me that in the script? Say follow-up. You know what I mean? You did? It doesn't say follow-up. You and I both know that. Well, it's not a follow-up. I see what you're saying. Right. It's just a sort of connected thing. South African leaders spoke to Elon Musk about misinformation after Trump attack. That's the same thing. That's what I was saying. Right. It's just connected. Yeah. So you might say, is it racist to change racism? You know what I mean? Because it's obviously racism is foundational to that type of disparity where 75% of the land is owned by 8% of the population, the farmland. So that seems like the more racist thing. You know what I mean? If I were to sort of do a racism off. Okay, so we finally have covered a lot of stuff, just kind of gotten into the pod. Let's close a few windows. And now we get to talk a little bit more about the previous episode, because I only really got to go into a little bit of it earlier, and I was sort of feeling like I wanted to talk more about the previous episode. So I just wanted to briefly cover it. Had some great follow-ups. I at first wanted to sort of, I guess kind of apologize, honestly. Just I misspoke. I just never feel good when I know people say you don't have to follow up on stuff like this. It's totally not, like no one's thinking about it. The few people who noticed it realized the mistake, and it's not a problem. You don't have to follow up. This was dumb and ignorant. White for saying that this was dumb and ignorant, and that he doesn't like Hitler. And this was the chief executive desk. I was giving props to this chief executive for, saying that he didn't like Hitler when his one of his independent contractors was speaking to the contrary. So, and that he doesn't like Hitler. And that white is dumb and ignorant. Yeah, I said white is dumb and ignorant. I meant the other guy's name. So sorry about that. Really sorry about that. Following up on that. Okay, more importantly, marketing department wanted to talk to me about the community post. So we had marketing department said, "Hey, great job. How do you want to do? You want me to just say it?" Okay. They said, "Hey, great job doing this gray around it." They like that I did that for the post because it's a square post. And so the post can sometimes get sized weirdly, and the preview is all messed up if you don't make it a square post. So great job. I did that. I reformatted the thumbnail. I took the already very cool thumbnail that I made. And then, and I'm trying to kind of undercut the editor, but okay. I'm trying to do other cool things that make us not need the editor, who kind of, as we talked about earlier, gives me some attitude. But anyways, square, put a square peg in a rectangular hole here, or a rectangular peg in a square hole, I guess you could say. And I did that, and that was great. And also the links were better. I did everything kind of better. I had this, Yeah, the Tom in the marketing department was like, great job including the link to the Verbal Journal, for people who aren't going to pay and they never were going to pay, but now they'll subscribe and maybe you never know. You know what I mean? So that's sort of the marketing mantra here. You never know. Very good. Here's what happened next. And I know you're probably, if you're watching this, there's a chance you saw this and you were confused. Okay. So let me explain what happened next. Why did I then post the next day Fortnite? Okay. Why did I post Fortnite the next day? Just the word Fortnite. Do you know? It was a test. It was a test. I was told to test you all, to test my audience. I'm the guy from the What's Therapy channel too. I just do this podcasting mainly. So I was told to test the audience because the posts are kind of hit or miss in terms of reception. And so when this post went out, I did a great job formatting it. It seems like the marketing department should do all these things, but they just tell me to do it and they tell me kind of what to do and then I have to listen. Got 25 likes, 25 upvotes. So Tom comes to me and says, hey dude. He's like 12. He's literally 12. He's not like 12. So he says dude all the time and stuff, which I do too, but he does it it's weird that he does it. It's like he's too young to say dude, I think. But so he was like, dude, I want you to go ahead and post just the word Fortnite. We're going to see what kind of response we can get because I'm going to see what the issue here is with the community post. I was like, there's no issue, man. You know what I mean? I was like, or there's no issue, boy. I said no, and then I was like, I shouldn't say that. You know what I mean? That's kind of offensive. But he is a boy and not a man was my point, and I wasn't trying to be offensive. I just felt weird to call him a man when he's a little boy. Anyways, and why is he working here? He knows someone. It was complicated. We just needed a marketing person. But anyway, so he goes, just post Fortnite, and I'm like, dude. And I'm calling him dude like in a mocking way. And I'm like, dude, just because you like Fortnite, this has nothing to do with the channel. And he's like, just do it. We're going to see. And I told him it's not going to get more upvotes. It's not going to get more upvotes. It's going to get the same number of upvotes. And I was basically right. Right. I was basically right. 94. Okay, it's almost 4 times as many. But that's... What? The comments? Okay, it's similar. What did we get on the... Okay, we didn't get any... Is it broken? Or maybe it's just not showing the numbers. Sort by new. Okay. I don't know. I guess no one commented on that one. But is that true? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, 18 comments on the Fortnite? Is that's many more, you would say? I don't know if that's many more. They're arresting me now. That's always a good gag. Always kills. Okay, fine. 94 is a bit more. I'll admit it's a bit more. And you want me to say that within an hour, it surpassed it. Okay. I don't know if we need to do that. Doubled it in 6 hours. Okay. Way more comments and engagement. Fine. And views on the channel even started going up. YouTube was like, you got this. Thank you for saying Fortnite to your audience. And then the views have gone down since. I think the algorithm kind of punished me and was like, why'd you do that? You know what I mean? You didn't even have any reason for doing that. And so that's on me. Anyways, thank you to the audience for responding so positively to the Fortnite post, I guess. I mean, maybe I'll have to figure out some way to blend that together because I can't just post the word Fortnite all the time. I'm trying to draw people to the podcast. I'm not even getting paid by Fortnite. Is that what you're working on? Are you doing like a backroom deal with Fortnite and you're going to be like, hey, we've already been promoting you for free. Time to pay us for that. And then more stuff going forward. Like I was going to do with Shinola, the notebook brand and other stuff brand. But, nothing ever happened with that yet. That's a deep cut from the main channel. I bet most of y'all don't know which video that's from, a reference to. Actually, multiple videos. Anyways, next up we have the main section. And we've sort of been talking about this. It's related to the disruption of the functioning of the organization we call the federal government. This is a main section. We said last time we're rethinking the purpose of a main section. It's kind of complex. What is a main section? And I didn't really come up with anything. And I thought someone else would maybe come up with more, but I didn't really come up with anything. Also, I said earlier it's not going to be a long episode. I think it's a very long episode. Yeah. More than 8,000 web pages are taken down since Friday afternoon. This is a week ago, so it's 2 Fridays ago. Agencies rushed to take pages down to conform with the incoming president's orders. So, more than 3,000 pages from the CDC, including 1,000 research articles filed under Preventing Chronic Disease STD Treatment Guidelines, information about Alzheimer's, warning signs, overdose prevention training, and vaccine guidelines for pregnant people. The use of the phrase pregnant people could have contributed to its removal because people are worried that they're not enforcing an anti-scientific, false, strict binary about gender, as the incoming administration would like to dictate in accordance with its traditional values of oppression of non-men. More than 3,000 pages from the Census Bureau, articles filed under research and methodology, also missing pages related to data stewardship. We really like data on this podcast. If you're from the public, you might not know the whole history with that, but we had a guy who would do our data on the pod. I shouldn't even talk about it because sometimes it brings up a lot of emotion, but he did the data. And he was just the guy. And he was the data guy, actually. Reginald, the data guy. And I really miss him. And I'm trying to reach out to him. And I looked him up on LinkedIn. And I couldn't find him because I don't have his last name. And also there are questions about whether he was like a... There are just some lingering questions as to him. So, but anyways, I do have a plan. I know I said last time I have a plan. We're gonna reach out. I have an idea of a plan. A concept of a plan. That's right. It was a reference to that. More than 200 pages from Head Start, a program for low-income children, including advice on helping families establish routines and videos about preventing postpartum depression. And a lot of other pages, 50 press announcements about the use of National Disaster Distress Helpline in the aftermath of shootings. Just all kinds of pages taken down. 25 pages from the IRS, including a transcript of a video titled, "Here's How to Avoid IRS Penalties and Interest." Wow. And the form private schools must submit annually to certify they have not engaged in racially discriminatory behavior. Wow. They just took that form down. Probably not going to worry about that. Racially discriminatory behavior against white people, I assume? That's a reference to earlier in the podcast if you just tuned in. I don't want you to... environmental justice might have contributed to pages getting taken down. Veteran care, LGBTQ veteran care, minority veteran care, and the equity of the Louisiana healthcare system. Wow, yeah, just taking down information because they love free speech. Okay, so that's the main section. We try not to linger on the main section too long. Next up, we have the politics desk, and you might be thinking, I feel like we've talked about politics, but no, we haven't yet. Now we're going to talk about politics. First up on the politics desk, exclusive. we made this the main section. The main segment or the mid The main segment of the midsection, we made this. Why is it also in the politics desk? That's very embarrassing. That's like cancel the podcast and start over from the beginning. Embarrassing. I'm like, oh, we need a politics section. And then I already covered it earlier. Anyways, this is not really politics, but it's sort of related to politics. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the federal agency. I talked about this last week. It's really sad that there was this horrific plane crash in the U.S. and there are these plane crashes. And I think they happen because of lack of regulation and lack of adequate labor in the relevant areas. And it's the profit motive probably more than anything. It's not Breaking Bad, you know what I mean? It's not like that guy falling asleep because of grieving. It's probably just other stuff usually related to the profit motive of the companies involved and cost-cutting measures. For example, the Congress people who wanted to be able to fly more often and cheaper. Actually, it wasn't about money for them. Probably it was just about convenience. They don't have to worry about money. The cheapness really comes into play when you have companies lobbying to make it so they have less regulation, airlines. And, you know, federal agencies like the FAA, you might want them to be able to have, you know, good functionality. And you might even say other agencies too. Anyways, I just wanted to say the FAA is going to slow the arrivals. We mentioned how they have way more. It was like way more arrivals than they used to because Congress said, hey, let's make this an extremely busy airspace so we can fly around really conveniently. But now they're going to lower it because a plane crash happened. And unfortunately, in the U.S., we only learn from direct firsthand experience. That's why we dealt with COVID in the way we did, because we do not have object permanence and we can't, or foresight. We don't have foresight or object permanence. So we only deal with situations when they immediately happen and or if we know someone who has that situation. So after the plane crash, they said, oh yeah, maybe we should actually do what would be safer, even if it's slightly less convenient. Because investigators from the FAA and National Transportation Safety Board have expressed concerns for our tower personnel on duty who have an increased level of stress while also having a front row view of the accident recovery. So people are being traumatized and need to work less hard. Reconsidering rules that allowed air traffic control supervisors to reduce staffing. Yeah, maybe we need more staffing. You know, maybe we shouldn't get rid of federal employees. FAA is about 3,000 controllers short of staffing levels. So it seems like federal agencies sometimes do need employees, apparently. So next up on politics segment, did I call it? It's a politics desk segment. Sorry, I just clicked something. So we talked about Head Start briefly. Dozens of Head Start programs still aren't receiving promised federal funds. This is, news changes fast. This was 4 days ago. But programs that provide pre-K instruction and daycare services for tens of... I know the episode's going long. For tens of thousands of children from low-income families cannot secure crucial federal money Congress approved for them months ago, despite verbal commitments from Trump administration officials, because, about 50 Head Start providers in 24 states are still waiting for reimbursements they requested from the federal government as much as a week earlier. They're waiting to get paid. 1,600 independently operated programs that have people to pay and and bills to pay, and they serve over 700,000 people. Wow. This is the Head Start program in total. And the affected programs are just a huge chunk of that. Not a huge chunk of it. Only 50 of these providers. So maybe they'll get paid eventually, but a lot of these organizations are on the hook. The problem is when Congress does something. 2 judges halted the Trump administration's order to broadly freeze billions of dollars, and then the administration rescinded the plan. And they weren't trying to target Head Start, but somehow it did. things just go wrong. So, I wonder if maybe this is another example of where federal money is actually constructive when it goes towards things. Huh. Next up on Politics Desk segment, just with all the stuff going on, I just wanted you to know about the aclu.org/know-your-rights/immigration-rights website, where you can find information related to all kinds of immigration scenarios. And you really need to know your rights. And people do know their rights more and more, and it's great. Next up on Politics Desk segment, halt in U.S. aid harms global efforts to relieve hunger. So hunger is when people do not have their needs met, and it can be a cause of a lot of other issues. And there's hunger crises sweeping the world. Even before, obviously, this has been an ongoing problem, resources not being given to people who need them. So this was before, this was a spending freeze. The spending freeze was ordered. This is a different spending freeze. Yeah, this is a foreign aid spending freeze. It's temporarily halted, a lot of it, and about 500,000 metric tons of food, 500,000 metric tons of food worth $340 million is in limbo, transit, or storage, not on people's plates who need it. U.S. provided cash assistance intended to help people buy food and other necessities in Sudan and Gaza also has been halted, aid workers told Reuters. So has funding for volunteer-run community kitchens, an American-supported effort in Sudan to help feed people in areas inaccessible to traditional aid. So the Famine Early Warning Systems Network, the U.S. entity that produced regular food security alerts meant to prevent famine, also has been shut down. I don't like the passive voice. Say who shut it down. Its loss leaves organizations without a key source of guidance on where and how to deploy humanitarian relief. The U.S. government also in the last few weeks issued stop work orders to 2 major manufacturers of nutritional supplements, diminishing the supply of life-saving food for severely malnourished children around the world. So if you are a Republican, you support that. Period. Democrats aren't perfect, but they're not doing this. Republicans are. So if you're a Republican, you support that. Period. End of sentence. If you don't want to support that, easy. Change your political views and actions. Next up on Politics Desk, Israeli military operation turns, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce Jenin, refugee camp into ghost town. So you might say, but there's a ceasefire. Well, it's continuing. The military, Israel's military, they call it the Defense Force. It's a play on words because they are not defending themselves. They are killing people who are not a threat to them. Because apparently when you suffer a terrorist attack, you're allowed to kill as many people as you want, says the U.S., says Israel. So this is a town for descendants of Palestinians who fled or were driven from their homes, displaced during the 1948 war, when the country, the state of Israel, was established. Around the has been rendered a ghost town. This refugee camp, a stronghold of militant groups. Oh, I wonder why. Is it people who want to get their homes back? And have tried, and all the other avenues have been closed to them. Interesting. Yeah, so this place just gets demolished whenever Israel feels like it really wants to. Only about 100 people from the 3,400 families that had been there before, the governor said, that's what's left. It's wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Can we just where do they mention the ceasefire? The operation started after a ceasefire. You might say, well, why should a military operation, which operation is sort of a nice way to put it, don't you think? Why would it start after a ceasefire? Sorry, I don't really know how to process my feelings sometimes, so it comes out as like this sort of absurd like character. I really can't even process it sometimes. It's like this is the worst thing. I wish these military officers had to go stab people with a knife instead of just sitting at a desk and saying, yeah, go do that. Next up on Politics Desk, Trump's Gaza Riviera comments echoes Kushner waterfront property dreams. You probably saw that the current U.S. president, the Republican Donald Trump, said that he basically thought that you could just get a bunch of developers in Gaza and make it into a Riviera-like elite. Well, he didn't use the word elite. It's for the people, obviously. Who hasn't had a vacation in the Riviera? He, said maybe we could just develop that land. Why kind of give it back to Palestinian people was basically the gist. And surprisingly, absolutely shockingly, it revived an idea floated by his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, a year ago. It's just so shocking. What a coincidence, you might say. It's just sort of a coincidence. Kushner had said, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. Maybe he said ethnically clean it up? Oh, he didn't say that. Oh, okay. Oh, he was a property developer. Giving back to the people. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, maybe the mask off thing, I've said this before many times, but it's like the one benefit of this like Republican dictatorship is like maybe the mask off thing will wake people up to how bad things have gotten, And obviously Democrats' historic failings, I hope, wake people up too to those other associated issues. Next up on Politics Desk, U.S. Department of Agriculture detects second bird flu strain in dairy cattle. This is not really politics. But what is politics, and we could rest assured, Trump's pick for USDA secretary says she has a lot to learn about bird flu. So let's see. Has she been confirmed? USDA lead. All right, it's lead. I searched USDA lead, technically. You know what I mean? Okay. Brooke Rollins, household name. Yeah, she was unanimously approved. Yeah, obviously they were all approved. Because of the, one party rule. Very healthy situation here. But, she's open-minded about a lot of things. She was like, hey, she was like, there is a lot I have to learn on this. And if confirmed, this will be one of the very top priorities. So she's down to learn about it. You know what I mean? She's like down to learn about bird flu. So that's really dope. She, trying to just see like her background. I feel like they should have mentioned it in like one of the opening paragraphs, Let's just look it up really quick because I feel like I should be done with the podcast, but she oh, okay. She was the chief executive officer of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, an Austin-based conservative think tank for 15 years until 2018. She was in Trump's administration, his first one. And so, look, if she's been a CEO, that's all I need to know. So CEO, that's all I need to know. That's what I say. Last thing, Politics Desk, Musk's agent. We literally, why was this not in the earlier segment? I'm not trying to get mad, but like, why was this not in the earlier thing? I feel like we've been talking about this, you know what I mean? And it's enough about him. Like, I think people are like, enough about him. So what an episode, hey? I mean, kind of makes you want to listen to the other ones, watch the other ones. You know, you can. Throw a few dollars to the Patreon. Throw a few dollars to the YouTube membership. Become a member. Become a patron. And realize your full potential. No, but feel free to give me money if you want. I honestly do appreciate it. You don't need to, though. I'm fine. But it is super great. And I just can imagine, what if like a bunch of people gave me money? I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, that would be awesome, because then I would have a bunch of money. But I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. So let's, speaking of people who give me money, let's thank those people. But at first I got to do the mailbag. We have all these people write into the mailbag. And we don't have anyone who wrote in. Okay, never mind. Let's get right to thanking the patrons. Patreon has a function called Relationship Manager. Should we thank the members first or the patrons? Let's do the patrons. Relationship Manager. In order of newest patrons, thank you Noah. Thank you Burrow or Burro. Sorry, I don't know what that was. Thank you. Arthur is here. Thank you, Luna, Alexis, Perpetually Jackson, B, A, JC, Lily, Islac, MT, Caleb, Emily, Miranda, Ruben, Ibnomad, 1, Oliver, MK, Matt, X, Noah, Anastasios, Linguist, Sam, King, Tom, Verbal, Gerbil, Hugh, Redgrove, Elemancy, Platinum, Sarge, Rabid Dog, Jen, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Ga45, or Swit, Ryan, Madeline, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Kyle, Ashley, Jack, Scott, Luca, Gunther, Thulusaurus Rex, Miles, and a user. And thank you to the members. If I remember to thank you. Thank you to, in order of newest members. Thank you, Ramon, Laplian, Jeebus the Great, Maddie, Ibnomad1, Matthew, Jasmine, Eva, Jifa, Trusty Ghost, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, 39% Weird, Simply Snaps, and Jaden. Y'all are great. Thanks for the cash. My landlord appreciates it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. I'm going to do a public episode for episode 100, but the next one's going to be private. Have a great time. And how about that Super Bowl? You know what I mean? That was wild. And that one pass to kind of get it going there. Whew. All right. Goodbye.
This is a podcast or something like that.